All right, are we live?
Yep.
We're good? Okay. Well, I'm glad you're all here. I am Laurie Brock. I'm rector of St. Michael's, and I got on Twitter in 2008 because I was in a position in a church that I was not really allowed to have a voice. And when I discovered Twitter, I said, my. So I sort of fell backwards into Twitter and started using it. So one of the things I will tell you about social media, and Twitter particularly, is it is very much okay in social media to learn as you go. And clergy particularly like to know everything before we begin anything. Maybe that's just me. So yes, I've seen some nods out there. So how many of you do not have a Twitter account at all? Have never, okay. And how many of you have a Twitter account but maybe aren't really sure what to do with it? Okay, so just for the web world, that was, most of the room does not have a Twitter account. So we're just gonna start really basically, and if you have questions, jump in, raise your hand, because I tend to like to teach via a dialogue rather than a monologue. So one of the things to know about Twitter, and here's the other question I have, how many of you have Facebook accounts that you either use or kind of play around with? So some of you familiar with Facebook and Twitter are not apples to apples, social media. And that's one of the things that I see a great deal of, that people think, oh, if I have a Facebook account, it's the same as Twitter. It's a very different medium. Twitter is a real-time conversation, as my friend David Hanson likes to say, based around topics, not relationships. Facebook is based more around relationships. You friend somebody, you see what's on their wall, they like your post, or now they can emote over your post in many ways. Twitter is really about a topic. So you will notice that when people tweet about things, it tends to be around a particular thing. People are tweeting around e-formation. People will tweet about a particular political issue. They may tweet about, one of the things that's trending on Twitter right now is the Stanford swimmer situation, who was convicted of some sexual abuse crimes and got 6 months because apparently the judge didn't want to hurt his reputation or something like that. So there's a deal around that. So Twitter is around topics, not relationships, and I'll tell you that is a real-time conversation that moves very fast. So for some people, Twitter seems very overwhelming because it's a lot of information at times. It's sort of like drinking water out of a fire hose. You can control that. You can control that, and we're going to talk about that. Basically on Twitter, you have, as of now, and I always qualify because social media rules change when the platform changes, but as of now, it's 140 character limit, and that includes space for pictures and links. So if you put a link on your tweet, then you're not going to have 140 characters. Because of that 140 character limit, spelling and grammar take on their own life. So instead of typing about, you may see AB. You will frequently lose small words like the, and use ampersand, slashes, not. So there is a level of sort of Twitter glossary that helps people sometimes. I put a couple of links up here. Support@twitter.com is actually very good. It's one of the Twitter actually has a pretty good support page. And also Webipedia.com is one of those sites that I recommend to lots of people for lots of social media. So you can just go on there and Google, or not search, Twitter vocabulary or glossary, and get a sense of some of the ways they use it. I will talk about some of the shorthand we use in Twitter. Everyone can see your tweets. So you don't have to, Jonathan and I don't have to be mutual friends on Twitter for Jonathan to see my tweets or me to see his. I can simply follow him. In Twitter, we follow, we don't like. We do like, but so Jonathan has an account. I see that I know Jonathan from e-formation, or one of my friends retweets Jonathan, and then I go to Jonathan's Twitter account and I read his tweets, and I think I like what he has to say, so I follow him. He will get a notification that I, and my Twitter handle is Dirty Sexy Ministry, have followed him. Lots of people get disappointed when they realize it's a priest. So, and Jonathan has the option to follow me back or not. It is not necessarily in the Twitter world considered bad form not to follow a person back. I have somewhere around 5,000 followers, I think, or something. I follow about 2,000 people because some of the people who follow me, it's stuff I don't know or don't really care about. So I follow people who have information that I want to see. You can mutually follow people. And when you first start out in Twitter, I encourage you to follow lots of people because it will give you a sense of who you want to see. So you followed somebody, you can make your tweets private. You can, there's a function on Twitter that says you can make your tweets private. Here's the thing though, I don't think anything on Twitter is really private. I think that's a false sense of security because again, if Jonathan has made his tweets private, but I really like it and I retweet it, then 5,000 people just saw his tweet. But his are private. So I think the privacy is probably a good idea if you're under 16 or 18 and maybe you want that control. But other than that, I just think that the privacy feature on Twitter is not, I mean, Twitter is an open dialogue and that's what it is. So, you know, and I also say this about social media, about every form of social media. There is no real privacy on the internet, ever, ever, ever. How many of you have seen a news story where some celebrity has tweeted something profoundly stupid or offensive, and then they delete it, but somebody took a screenshot of it, and yeah. So while there's the delete feature and there's all that, it's not really that private. So just remember that I think of all the social mediums, Twitter is one of the more public forums out there, which is good, but you know, just have some wariness about that. You can have different accounts, and different accounts can have multiple users, but every account can only use one email address. So I'll say that again. You can have different accounts can have multiple users, but every account has to be tagged to a separate email address. That is not hard to do. It is simply a matter of going to Gmail or your preferred platform and creating an email address. You can only log in on your computer to one account at a time. So I have to actually log in to my Twitter account, and there is my homepage, or good grief, of all that you see. Oh, 3,000 followers, never mind. So, but you can see all of my Twitter account. For me, online, to change accounts, I'm going to go up here to my picture and drop down, and I have to physically log out of this account and log back into another account. Twitter is actually an app that is most used on this. I can actually run all 7 Twitter accounts that I am either the main user or one of the users on my phone at the same time. So if you have multiple accounts, this is actually, your smartphone is how you're going to want to do that. You simply go to the Twitter app on your phone and all your accounts pop up. Kyle, how many Twitter accounts are you running at any given time?
I downsized recently. I'm at 4.
Yeah. So in case you're wondering, I mean, these are not all personal. I have St. Michael's, our church account, St. Michael's Lex. I'm also one of the users on Lit Madness, so 50 Days of Fabulous. My horse has an account. You laugh, but she was featured in the New York Times, in one of the New York magazines, along with Mimi the Ferret, who's Tim Skanks of also Lit Madness, his ferret. She is a sassy little thing who likes to make fun of Father Tim a lot. So Twitter is made, if you have multiple accounts, to use on your phone. It doesn't lend itself easily on your PC. So just have that information if you're doing that. I would encourage you to get really comfortable with Twitter on a personal account before you start adding on to accounts. If you have a church account, and I encourage you to have more than one user. So you can add multiple users. I'm not even sure what the maximum is on users. I've never hit it if it is, but you know, several of us have on my church account. I think we have 5 users on our account, so different people can tweet. Politicians have, I suspect, probably 50 users on some of their accounts. So you can have multiple accounts, but you're going to want to do that on your phone and not necessarily on your PC. Just to give you some numbers about Twitter, The latest numbers I could find this morning, about 140 million daily users that log in globally. 140 million people are on Twitter, and about 500 million tweets are sent each day. And that's an average. So that means there are days that the Twitter traffic is much higher and much lower. That is a lot of people out there. Wouldn't you like your sermon to be heard by 140 million people? That's my text phone too. I was like, wait, this is mine. It is the third largest traffic driver in social media. The third largest. Actually just got surpassed by Snapchat. But the third largest social media platform is not a media platform that I think we as Christians need to ignore, because it's third largest. So, I mean, if we heard this was the third largest way to share the gospel of Christ, how many of us would go, we just don't want part of that? I mean, we would be buying that book. Third largest. Again, changes a lot. Most people tweet from their phone. 75% of all tweets are sent from smartphones. So this was something I set up, and we are going to get into setting up your very own Twitter account and learning how to do this. But some things about why I think Twitter matters as a platform. First of all, information and conversations around a topic. I can find out more information about trending topics on Twitter, and many of them are international and national news. So most of them aren't what Kim Kardashian has done today. Many of them are issues of what is going on in Syria, the latest issues around the political races, court cases, Supreme Court cases, Twitter. But 75% of people are finding this on their phone. They're standing in line at Target and they're flipping through their Twitter accounts and they're finding breaking news. So one of the things about Twitter is it keeps you in the loop of what's going on in the world of the people around us. And not only in our world, in our local communities, but in this global community that we now live in. Twitter also allows us to do something that I call bilocation. It allows us to be in multiple places at one time. If you will look at Twitter, I looked this morning at the eForm retweets, and Kyle would have probably a better sense of the numbers on this. Lots of retweets and likes are happening from people who are not here with us. They are participating, they are with us in this conference, but they're not here with us physically. But they're watching online. Hey, online people, glad you're here. They are reading Twitter, and they are participating and learning with us. They are hearing the language that we are using to speak of social media and of God, and they are taking that and putting it in their lives. And what they do with that is God and the Holy Spirit's business. But it allows us to be present in many spaces at once. It also is a profound medium for social justice. And God knows the Episcopal Church loves that combination of words, and I think we should. But it is allowing transformative change to happen in our culture because the news cycle is not allowed to only be in the hands of those in power. The Black Lives Matter movement happened, I think, because of Twitter. Arab Spring happened in part because of Twitter, because people could send pictures and videos and they could tweet that out, and all of a sudden millions of people could see what was happening in Ferguson. And the news, the mainstream media was not covering that. Twitter covered that. And the demand and the swell and the voices of the people said, this is something that we care about. It is shifting the balance of power. And make no mistake, that makes leadership very nervous. I think it is an interesting thing. And now I'm going to scratch off several dioceses of which I will ever be employed. It is an interesting thing of how few bishops are on Twitter and how few bishops use it. You do not see the House of Bishops live tweet their meetings because Twitter allows people an entree into, Kyle just walked out like, I don't know, can't believe she said that. But it allows people an entree into, I don't know, or I didn't invite her. It allows people an entree into the proverbial halls of power. We can see what's going on. Again, that bilocation. When people are live tweeting diocesan conventions, people can see what's going on there. And how many of us have diocesan conventions on like a Friday, Saturday? I have most of my parishioners work. Many of my parishioners cannot come to DASA's convention. Fewer of them could be delegates or deputies for general convention because that's 2 weeks out of the working life of many people, and they can't come to that. Twitter allows people to real-time follow the activities and life and dialogue of our church at general convention and put their opinions in. It was amazing to watch people as legislation was coming to the forefront that were live tweeting their enthusiastic support of certain legislation and their criticism of others. That makes people in the halls of power nervous, which by definition means it's something that I'm very interested in. So Twitter, I think, is this wonderful, wonderful subversive tool that I think all Christians should be engaged in. And one of the final things that I like to just put out there about Twitter, other than is that it allows you to connect with people outside your physical location. I have friends with Twitter all over the world. I have friends that I've met here that I have built an online relationship with on Twitter. We've liked each other's tweets, we've direct message, and then I meet them here, and it's a wonderful meeting. I have friends who are in different parts of the world where I can direct message them and say, tell me what's going on in this situation, and they will tweet me back, or they will send me a link, or they will say, here's my perspective. That gives me the ability to have my vision, my experiences expanded exponentially. I do not have to have the news given to me through the editing of another party. I get to hear it from people who are on the ground there. I get to remember that my world and my worldview is not the only worldview out there, and it's very important for me to have that expanded. And Twitter allows that, and I think by and large, most social media platforms allow that, but I think Twitter allows that in a particular way. There is journalism.org is a good website, I think, to go to just to see statistics about this, but I do put this out there. 67% of users under 35 describe Twitter as their main news source. 67% of users describe Twitter as their main news source. Think about that. Twitter, NBC News is no longer the main news source. The New York Times is no longer the main. Twitter is the main news source through links, through tweets, through information. I expect that number will increase. Interestingly enough, 58% of users over 50 describe Twitter as a primary news source. So it's not just young people using Twitter, and I think that's one of the stereotypes about social media is everybody using social media is 16. That is simply not true anymore. 65% of all Twitter users say that it is one of their most trusted sites to get national, international, and of course, sports scores. So you have that people go on Twitter to find out what's going on. We are seeing in some of the reports I've read from 2015, the trust level of social media is increasing while the trust level of mainstream news sources is decreasing. In my blog class, I will talk about blogs are now considered the 5th most trusted social media site. 5th. Blogs. It's a little strange, but it tells me that social media is really redefining our information landscape. So now we are going to actually set up a Twitter account. So if you are on Twitter or you are not, I would like you to go to twitter.com, and I'll give you all a few minutes to get there. Yes.
Well,
are there any questions, by the way, if you're getting there?
Do you see this democratization of news to be problematic in that misinformation can spread just as quickly?
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that I think is important about Twitter is, when I see a breaking news, double check it. I mean, Snopes.com is good to do that on, but there's sites that I found that I trust greatly, international and local news sites. But yes, I think that part of it is you tend to get, this is what my Twitter feed looks like right there. So when you go on there, you are going to be asked to, how many of you do not have an account at all and are setting it up for the first time? Okay, so what? Oh, okay. Yes, all right. So I'm actually going to log out of my account, and we're going to hold our breath and hope that I can get the password back in. So I am going to say that I do not have an account. Home. And we're going to sign up. So click that sign up button. I'm going to create another fun Twitter account for myself. So my dog Evie needs an account. So we're going to have Evie the pup. Now, one thing about your Twitter handle is you want to make it something recognizable to you. It can be a form of your name. You know, I would say Mary's already taken. So if you're, but a form of your name. Some people have, you know, Rev, whatever. Some clergy have father, mother, or whatever. But so pick your name. Once your name is done, the @ it's going to be your little @ and that is called your Twitter handle. So has everybody got your name in?
I don't see that. Mine's not the same screen I have. Mine asked for my full name and then my phone number, and now it's going to be a code.
Okay,
So
yeah.
I'm putting the code in.
Yeah.
But it asked for my phone name. It didn't ask for it.
Yep.
It's going to do that. I already have an account, so it's picking up that they've got my information.
Oh.
And I can't, unfortunately, I can clear out cookies, but okay, so you
We have to get past the code.
get past the code thing, and you actually like that. You want to have them text you codes because, and they are, I've never gotten spam from Twitter. I cannot say the same about, so I hear all these wonderful codes going off, yay. All right, so
your full name is just the name, you don't put @ something.
when you put your full name in, you're going to put your full name in. So Evie the pup's name, I'm going to delete this. Your full name, actually that probably is Evie, I guess that. And then write your password down. I say that because David Sibley has already mocked me today because I forgot my password. And I would, if you don't.
So if the code disappears, how do you get the code back again?
Is it on your text message?
Yes, it will be.
No, we don't want to take on Twitter. Thanks for noticing.
Something's technically wrong.
Who knows? So has everybody got a Twitter account? It's pretty self-explanatory to do it. And you're going to get a code. You put the code in.
If you're having technical difficulties or a technical question, feel free to raise your hand. I can walk around.
He can walk around and help you out.
Mhm.
When it says code, I'm sorry. What did you say?
So that's okay. That's why we're here. And by the way, if you are having problems doing this, I will be available throughout today and tomorrow to sit down with you one-on-one to walk you through this, because it does take a little extra.
Yeah, if you put in that you put in your phone number and you say send you a code.
It will send you a
That
code
sends you a code. So then you just take that 4-digit or 5-digit number
and put it in.
Put it back into the system. It's basically just verifying that that's your phone and that you're not giving it your best friend's phone number just to mess with them.
Yeah.
By the way, funny story.
There always
Everyone
is.
mess with people. Yes.
This email is already registered, so that means that you've already signed up for a Twitter account. So what I would do is I would log in, so type in your email address here and any normal password that you might use. If that doesn't work, you can just do forgot password, log into your email, and then it'll secure your email with the password. So it looks like you've already done that. Yeah, I have this thing every time. Who else needed help? Okay.
All right, so once
No,
you,
that doesn't work.
so when you get your Twitter account, you're going to go to your home page.
Mine said I already had a Twitter account, but I don't see it downloaded.
So is everybody, raise your hand when you get to a home page, just so I can kind of
So,
see.
look, you can have an account without necessarily having a map. So let's go on here and let's download the app.
So here's one of my rules about Twitter. Wait,
You may want to mention downloading the app to the phone as well.
yes, there is an app for Twitter that you can just go to the App Store, download on your phone, and you'll put in your username, your email, your password, and your information, and then it will be on here. And you do want it to save your password on your phone because it just makes it easier than trying to put it in every time. So when you get to your Twitter account on your phone, and again, if you're still working, find me later. Some of this is just a hands-on thing. When you get to your Twitter account, you're going to have a home page. For the love of all that is holy, do not use an egg as your image. No one wants to tweet to an egg. You want to put, this is going to be your profile picture right here. And then you get to put this big fancy picture across the back, and that's kind of your background. Pretty nature shot is always got nice there. That's a horse show for me. And then you're going to have your name.
Well, before it
Okay.
goes to that, it's asking me about my interests.
Just, you can always come back to that too. Cool. What that's doing is it's aggregating information so it can tell you who to follow.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So you can come back to that. It will never let you not tell it. So you can skip all the interest stuff and move on. So, you know, go on your phone, take a cute selfie. If you don't have one, go to somebody here at eForm, let them take a pretty picture of you, take a lovely picture of the chapel, load it up. But visually, humans enjoy visual learning. So we like to see things. So have that picture up there. This is going to be not your @ name, but what I call your identifier name. So people may not know who Dirty Sexy Ministry is, but they may know, oh, that's Laurie. So this is not going to show up as your @ your handle, but it is going to show up in your tweet. So there is one of my tweets this morning to tell the regular trouble suspects that I'm going to be doing this class, and I would hope that they help me out and send some tweets. So you'll notice that this has my picture. If you don't use anything, it's an egg. Yes. Oh, we need some help in the back there. What I call my identifier name, and then there's my username, the @Dirty Sexy Ministry. Yes.
Is there a reason you didn't put your last name?
Yes. I don't put my last name for security purposes, just because, but I mean, I don't know that there's any particular study about if you have your last name, but if I had a last name like Smith, I'd probably use it, but Brock is just original enough. But I mean, it's not that hard to find me on the internet. So, but generally I would say, you know, first name and your last initial or what that. So
My first initial.
yeah, I mean, whatever combination of that works for you is great. So this is Megan Castillion. She's a friend of mine. And when I roll this, I can see her profile. She has a landscape. And so then this little section here underneath your name and your Twitter handle is kind of your bio. Short, concise statement about you or your community. So if you were to go to St. Michael's Lex, our short, concise statement says, church, a welcoming church for the seeker, saint, and sinner in all of us. So you don't want to put your entire life story there. I would say choose 5 nouns that describe you. So just start with that. You know, this is going to be underneath in your, what I call your bio statement.
Do you want it to send notifications to us?
Yes.
alerts.
Just start with that. You can always undo any of that, by the way. So if you say, I'm going to get notifications, and then you find that you've got too many in your email, you can always undo that. So none of this is permanent. You can edit pictures. You can edit all of this stuff at a later date. I have the disclaimer, tweets are my opinions, not the parish or diocese. Not that I think that helps sometimes, but it's, you know, just in case somebody reads it and says, well, I didn't know the Diocese of Lexington thought that Southern Comfort was the worst reality show ever. So I just put that on there. This is my location. You see the little dot there that tells where I am. You can put a link if you have a blog or website. You can put that on there. And then this tells you when I joined Twitter. It actually tells you that I joined Twitter at 4:11 p.m. That makes me nervous in some ways. Down here, it tells you how many photos and videos I have shared through the years. And it also allows you as a user, you can click on that. And then you can go through and you can see what I share videos. So there's Padre Alberto preaching the gospel. I cheer for Alabama. You will figure that out very soon in football season if you follow me. So you'll kind of see, these are all of my pictures that I've tweeted. So you can, and especially new users, when they follow you, will tend to go through that to see what you're up to. So up here's what I call your statistic line. I have tweeted almost 34,000 times. That tells me that I might need to get outside more. I'm following almost 2,000 people, and I have almost 3,500 followers, and I have liked 10,000 tweets. So we'll talk about that in a minute. This on this side shows my tweet activity. I would, by the way, don't worry about that if you're a beginner. That's not information that you really, but for those, as you get more comfortable in it, you will start to notice like which tweets get retweeted more. This is Twitter telling you who to follow. They actually have no idea who I need to follow most of the time. So again, but when you're new on Twitter, it will, if you follow the Episcopal Church, it will actually then probably pop up other Episcopal Church related. So when you're new on Twitter, it's a good way to learn who to follow. This on Twitter is a column called Trends. So you will hear people sometimes say something is trending on Twitter, and that means lots of people are tweeting about it. Well, lo and behold, look at this. eForm is trending. Hashtags will be your friend on Twitter. So hashtags are what I call the file folders of Twitter. It aggregates all of the tweets about a subject with that hashtag in one place. So if I were not here, but I said, gosh, all these people I know are at eForm and having a great time, I can go to Twitter, and if I'm fortunate, I can look on trends. I can click on that hashtag, and it will take me directly to all of the tweets, or many of the tweets. There's top and all this other stuff, but the tweets about eForm. So it will let me know the people that are there. It will let me know people who are tweeting. Now I'll just put this out. So Meredith Gold is not here. She, by the way, is somebody that I encourage you to follow if you're not. She's not here, but she's one of the big social media champions of the church and was very early in that. But I sent out a tweet earlier this morning and said, what would you have to say about Twitter? One of the things that Meredith says is I would not automatically cross-post on Twitter and Facebook because audiences are different. You will sometimes see tweets that have, I posted a new picture on Facebook. Don't do that. Because if you're going to post a picture, just post it on Twitter and then go post it on Facebook. Because not all of the people that follow me on Twitter are my Facebook friends and vice versa. And they are two different audiences for me. So Meredith was throwing that out for us. So you can see all of the information that's going on for eForm. Also on your home page, your notification section will tell you, can pop over here, and it will tell you when somebody, and now we're going to get into some Twitter language, It will tell you when somebody has mentioned you. Jen Monroe Nathans has mentioned me. She's tweeted. Sometimes I think Twitter is the Diet Coke and Mentos of the internet. Dropping a tweet and watch it blow up. There's a lot to be said about that. And then she puts my handle at the end. So that's a mention. Everybody can see her tweet, but she tags me at the end. So it also means that all of my followers can see that tweet as well, and I can see that tweet. And then if I like it, I can click on the little heart here. And that says, I like that tweet. If I want to retweet it, I can do this. I'm going to click on this little button, and it's going to say that I can retweet. And if I hit that button, it will just send out the tweet. And at the top, it will say, Dirty Sexy Ministry RT retweeted this. It's all it will say. But I can also do something called quote tweet. Haven't had enough coffee to do all these teas. And that allows me to add a comment. So I'm going to tell Jen that that I read it out loud in the seminar, got lots of laughs. So, and then I'm going to tweet that, and it's going to show up in my timeline. I hope I get it. Right there. So that's what a quote tweet looks like. So it's got my comment with her tweet. Does everybody follow that? And you will do a lot of that on Twitter. You will do a lot of, quote, retweet. There's a lot of good stuff out there. And then there's this thing called messages. And those are private messages. So if I direct message Jonathan, it means that he's the only person that can get that. So it's, and he can direct message me. And I will tell you, I think that is a really wonderful idea to do if somebody tweets something and maybe you want more information, or I've had people direct message me that are friends of mine that say, hey, I'm going to be in town next Thursday. So it's kind of like a little side email account. I'm not going to click on that on mine because I'm not really sure which direct messages are on there. Nothing that would get me fired, but I'm not always sure. So, but that's sort of your side email account. And that's pretty handy for, if you want to sort of a deeper conversation. I'm just going to see what the next notifications are. So is everybody kind of following this? Okay, so we are actually going to, thank you, Emily, for that lovely tweet. We are going to tweet. So on the top here, you'll see the tweet button. Click on that. And it says, what's happening? Twitter rarely wants to know what's happening in my personal life. So notice right here, the 140 tells you how many characters you have left. This allows you to add a photo or a video. So if you've got a photo or a video on your phone, like you take a picture of worship and you want to tweet, amazing worship at eForm and attach a picture. And I will tell you, photos and videos matter on social media. People, especially if you have a church account, people love to see pictures of pretty things or interesting things or troubling things, actually, to say, because it makes it real. Think of the difference. Somebody puts a word news story that says, refugee infant drowns on way to freedom. How many of you remember that picture of the baby? That's how much image matters. So think about that, especially when you're tweeting for your congregation. So we are going to tweet. So everybody think of something you'd like to tweet, 140 characters. You might say, this is my very first tweet. I don't know why I'm doing this. Things I'm doing for Jesus. So whatever you want to do. So I can't spell this morning either. There we go. So then I'm going to add a hashtag. So I'm just going to hashtag. Now, Twitter is really great. It assumes you can't spell most of the time. So when I start a hashtag, it will drop down and tell you all of the current hashtags going on. So I just get to walk over here and click on that and it fills it in for me. So you can just put that hashtag in. I can also create my own hashtag. So say that maybe I'm hashtagging something, and hashtags can be named. They can be sort of pithy comments. I use hashtags judiciously because we've all sort of seen the joke where people have, you know, wonderful day, you know, a picture of a sunshine, wonderful day, hashtag blessed, hashtag love God, hashtag nature is wonderful, hashtag, you know, and it just gets absurd at that point. So I would say never use more than 2 or 3 hashtags if you're going to do that, but you can make up your own hashtag. So I'm going to hashtag social media Episcopal. Pardon? Delani,
Mine doesn't say compose new tweet. I mean, what is the icon again first?
it's up there. It should be on your it should be on your phone. It's going to be on your right-hand corner. Yeah, the little pen and paper.
This is what's happening. Same thing.
Yeah, that's it. That's your new tweet.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can't see this. I'm going to hold it up to the screen here, but that's what it's going to look like on your phone. So it looks a little different. So, and then you can also on here, Twitter has this feature called a poll. I don't know why they added it. If the Twitter people happen to find this, I think it's not necessarily useful. This also adds a location. I probably never add a location to my tweets, but if you're particular, like Grand Teton or something, you might want to add a location there. And then you hit tweet. And then it tells me my tweet was posted. Question.
Okay, so I just posted it and I was just like, you know, let these crazy girls come before. And then somebody with her boobs and bra just liked my tweet.
So here is what we're going to talk about next. Thank you for an amazing segue. So one of the things about Twitter is that there are millions of users, and there are also lots of people that what we call spam bots. They're not real people. There's a lot of porn on Twitter, and there are also a lot of trolls. So one of the things that we'll get there. I have that lined up. So let's see. So I'm going to ask them. I'm going to actually ask Twitter. They know who they are. I say, and keep it PG-13, might need to be added. So when you get an account, you can go, so I'm going to go, Rachel Held Evans is not porn, but I'm going to do this. So when you go to an account of Rachel's, there you will see, you can follow, by the way, an account. So I'm going to go do Dean Padres here. See his little icon right there? Follow. If you click on that, you suddenly follow him. And that's how you get followers. So you want to follow people, and you want to follow, I would say when you're first on Twitter, follow lots of people, and you will then learn about more people. So now look what happened. I followed Dean, and people that he follows or likes popped up. None of whom I'm going to follow, but it gives you some idea of different types of people to follow. You can also unfollow somebody. Say you follow an account and they don't tweet, or you don't really like the stuff that they tweet, or they tweet things that it's too much stuff you don't need. You just unfollow them. They do not get a notification, so nobody has to worry about being rude.
You just click it again.
You just click it again to unfollow it. So yeah, I can unfollow it and follow it again. Under user actions, so go to the tweet of Miss Boobs. Okay.
Yeah.
You can, there's different options. You can tweet to her. So Padre Dean, I can tweet to him. I can send him a direct message. I can add him to a list. A list is something that, by the way, I'm going to save if you want to come see me in a one-on-one, because that's a little set. I can mute him. Mute means that I still follow him, but I don't see his tweets. Trust me, when you get on Twitter, there will be people that you want to mute. Like they just tweet all the time. They always tweet pictures of all the food they're eating. And at some point you're just like, you are not Anthony Bourdain. I don't want to see the food you're eating. And so you just mute them, but you're still following them. You can also unmute them. So you can mute for short periods of time. One of my good friends was at a medical convention not too long ago and live tweeting that. And I just muted her during that time. Still love her, still follow her. I just don't want to I don't want to be at a convention of urologists. So I just muted her for that. Block is what you want. So if somebody is really harassing you, or it's an inappropriate tweet, or it's just spam. I mean, there's a ton of spam tweets out there. Spam tweets almost never have any followers, by the way. It's one of the ways you can tell. You can hit block, and then you can block them. I'm not going to block him, but you can block. If you block somebody, they can't follow you, they can't message you, and you don't get their tweets. It's a fabulous feature on Twitter, one that you should use. If you accidentally hit this and decide, oh, I don't really want to block, you can just cancel and block out. So I'm going to see. So what you want to do is if you get, and you'll get women and men telling you, let me come clean your house naked. That was a tweet I got this morning. And I thought, really? And I thought how sad it was that I was more intrigued with the cleaning my house part than I was the naked part. But I blocked it. So here's the Twitter response. So Tim doesn't like the entire account of Mimi the ferret. So this is perfect. Thank you very, very much for Dying Spirit, who's actually another Limp Madness blogger. This is an example of somebody, what a troll would say. Why do women always need so much help when they leave their seminars? Trolls basically just like to pick fights, or they say asinine things, and you don't want to read them. You do not need that kind of negativity in your life. You really don't. And here's the other thing. I feel personally, strongly, that it is God's responsibility to turn their hearts and not mine. Your witness is your Twitter account. You do not need to, if somebody says to you, and usually trolls use horrible language and demean, but if you see a troll, this is what you do to a troll. You go to the little dots and you block them. And that's it. Don't engage them. I will tell you from experience, you will not turn their hearts. They are like Pharaoh. You just need to let God send the plagues down upon them. But just it's really not worth engaging them. If it happens to be somebody that you do like, that is, differing in opinion for you, I think that's, a friend of yours, that's when you might want to go into direct message and say, I'm really troubled by the tone of your tweets. What's going on here? So there's a way to handle that with people that you are in relationship with or sort of know on social media, but you tweet it anyway. So I'm going to troll Tim. And you can, there's a difference, as many of you know, between sort of good-hearted that. So, and Holly just trolled us there. So one of the things you're watching me do is I am in a conversation with people about a topic. So I put out the thing about trolls. My friends who clearly are not engaged in writing a sermon this morning are tweeting me back. So we're talking, and it is a real-time conversation.
How do you put an image on there?
When
a troll picture. I can type on there, but how do you get the
So when you go, how do you get the shot? That's why I never tweet images from my PC or my Mac. I always use my phone. So when you're on your phone, just because it's so much easier, there is a camera. So and then you just select your picture. So I'm actually going to do this from my phone.
But not tweet, not from Twitter.
Yeah, from your Twitter app on your phone.
Okay, so I'm on my
So-
page, where's the camera?
So did you hit Twitter and you've got this?
I mean, I've got Twitter up, I got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you go to I just tweeted a picture of you.
Okay.
And that, but it showed up on my phone, my own feed, but not on the PC version. I've never done it on my Mac.
Okay.
So is there a reason why it showed up, the picture showed up on mine? I put your Twitter handle on it.
Oh, you have to, well, that involves, you have to go look for it. Like if you look for, if you go on Google search and you can search images.
So you
And
just,
then you can either copy it.
let's see what's going on here.
Copy it.
All right. I'm not seeing. Did it tweet? Check and see if it tweeted.
Yeah, you know, I just followed you.
I know we can do it, but I can't think of
I don't know, anyway, I just wondered why it showed up on my phone and not on mine.
There is a lag time between your phone and
And
your.
I see the tweet, I just don't see the photo on the Mac version.
It should be on there. There's a lag time sometime between the two. Yeah.
It's amazing.
What?
We've got a question over.
Okay.
On the iPad and on the iPhone,
Mhm.
we both saw that picture of the bathing suit top,
Uh-huh.
whatever, but we can't block it. And I don't know if it's because it's phone and iPad or. if
No,
it's because
you,
It was just because it was a comment of somebody else's.
She didn't comment, she just wants to follow me.
okay, block.
Yeah, but I don't know how.
So go to the account. So just touch the account name and you should get a screen like this on the account. Yeah. You're not going to follow her if you do that.
Right.
Under that, there's the little gear thing,
Oh.
and you're going to get a menu that pulls up, and then just hit block. There you go. Block is your friend. So any questions so far that, again, I will be available tonight and tomorrow too. I think I've just time for if you need some hands on. And again, I go back to what I said at the first of it. It is okay to be a beginner. You will get to do this the more you do it. You will be better at this the more you do it. Jonathan, who I need to follow because I've used him all day. I do. So we're going to talk about using, and sort of the last section here before I get into some question and answer. I think Twitter, because it is a conversation, is a wonderful thing to do in community. One of the great moments of my Twitter life, and I tell people when they ask me, how did I get to be a Lint Madness celebrity blogger? Megan Castilian, David Sibley, and I live tweeted, Tim and Scott were present for this, the Summer Olympic opening ceremonies in London. It was epic on Twitter because if you didn't see it, there were hobbits and crazy things. It was just, and it was hilarious to see people. I mean, it is a live conversation. And Tim and so told me later, he said, we got to get these people as celebrity bloggers because they're hilarious. I think Twitter is the most amazing app for introverts because I get to sit on my couch and make comments and I don't have to actually talk to anybody. And if I'm tired, I just put my phone down. So I appreciate that. So see, roll tide. You would not hear my Twitter feed for me long. So one of the things to remember about Twitter is it's wonderful to drop in on the conversation. So if there are people who live tweet as they watch Game of Thrones. There are people who live tweet as they watch special events. They're like the Miss America pageant is lots of tweeting on that. Usually my tweets include things like, you know, if I would be like bringing them hamburgers, but so you have those events. Live tweeting is one of the great and wonderful things about being on Twitter. So the thing that people ask me is, well, how do you live tweet? Part of it is that you are sitting in a classroom, in a convention, or in my congregation, I tell them, live tweet this church service. Again, some people are comfortable with that. For some people, that adds to their spiritual focus because they have a job, especially teenagers. They think it's amazing that they actually get to have their phone out and their parents are giving them the stink eye, but Mother Laurie said it was okay. For some people, it's not. And one of the cardinal rules I have about social media in any kind of public setting is don't be distracting about it. So I think it's distracting if you're standing up every 3 minutes taking a picture with your iPad and you've got your sound on and you're tweeting. That's a distracting practice. I also think that you have to honor the space and event. I'm not sure that live tweeting a funeral is the best use of social media. I'm sure it's been done, but it's not something that I personally would ever do. So when you are live tweeting an event, what you are doing is you are sharing information. Laurie Brock is speaking on Twitter. Glad to be in this class. Or wish I had another cup of coffee. Whatever. So you're sharing that information, facts. You're also sharing quotes. Dirty Sexy Ministry said, block the trolls. So you're sharing quotes. You're also sharing your insights and your impressions of the event. So if you go back to my feed on eForm when Father Albert was talking yesterday in the chapel, what you will see are my insights mostly. One of the things that I said was, I want the National Episcopal Church to do more work on digital ministry and evangelism. So those are my insights. When you quote, it is helpful to say things like Dirty Sexy Ministry quote said, or Padre Alberto said. So you actually give attribution to the person. For your insight though, and I think that actually is the power of a live tweet. You're giving your commentary on something. You get to be Tara Lipinski and Johnny Weir and comment on the performance, essentially. I think that's a great value. I mean, because I think all of you all have amazing and wonderful insights and ideas that need to be shared with the world. So it's not just my talk. It's not just my opinions. It's other people's. And everybody puts that on there. The other thing that you get when you have that is you actually have a record. There are apps like Storify and other things that you can do to actually pull all the tweets that have eForm. You can print them out. You can download them. Again, that's more advanced Twitter stuff, but that does allow you to keep a compilation of your tweets. I live tweeted when we had a bishop consecration. I was in the wings and live tweeting that. And people loved it because, again, people were watching that from all over the nation. And I got to take pictures. And yes, there were some people who thought it was, not spiritual enough and distracting. But again, I said, well, so be it. You get to have that opinion and I get to have mine. So when you actually start to live tweet stuff, one of the things that you need to do is let people know that that's what you're doing. So it's a little disconcerting when somebody sees a tweet that says something about eForm and they don't, because what I will do is if I see something, like if I see Jonathan has tweeted something like, wow, that's a really interesting statement, I'll click on his Twitter feed to see what I've missed. And so that way, because again, 140 characters, tiny, you can get a lot said in that, but it's still 140 characters. Then I can go back and read his tweets and say, oh, he's at eForm. Gosh, I wish I had gone to that conference. Sounds like I need to go there next year. The other thing.
I just tweeted you, but it's not up there.
It takes a minute.
Yes.
Sometimes it takes a while. There is a lag time. I know we're used to instantaneous live. So.
And when I press to tweet you back, it already has your @ sign. So then do I go under that? Or?
So here's the thing. If you have, St. Thomas Church.
Oh, there's me. Wait, what happened?
Right here?
No, Minister Mayor.
Wait,
No,
okay.
St. Thomas.
Well,
Thomas is us.
so So yay, my first tweet. Okay, so there's St. Thomas. There's Minister Mayor. So she's got her first tweet. So this is all you seem to have tweeted.
Well, I just followed them, but I didn't write anything.
Okay, so there's,
That went to you,
yeah.
my first hi tweet.
So,
But so like when I go to make a.
so the first hi tweet, just to let you know, the @ sign in front of that, did you want to put a hashtag or an @ sign? Because what Twitter reads this, and this is because again, you always learn from your mistakes. Twitter on my feed, Twitter reads this as spam. That's why it's not showing up, because there's no content there. So the @ sign, so imagine this, the @ sign is the address. So that's where that's where Twitter's going to deliver that. So it's going to deliver it to it. The hashtag is the subject matter. So what you probably want to do is put either first hi tweet with the hashtag or just have the first hi tweet. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So.
There it is.
So here's a troll, Father Tim, who clearly, again, in Dirty Sexy Ministries, is she more likely to drop the F-bomb? So this is a good example of a poll. So I'm going to vote in that poll. Tim is a real person. Thank you so much, because someone asked if you were a real person. He's a friend of mine. But no, Tim's a friend of mine. So I honestly, I think that's the best way to use polls. So see, now it showed up. There you go. So if you have, so Meredith's tweet to me is what we call tweeting at somebody. So the only people who are going to see this, if I reply back to her, see, it's got Minister Mayor, and are my followers and hers, unless I retweet it. Okay? So it's not going to be public. If, however, I want this to be public, I'm going to do this little cheat called put a period in front of it. So if I put a period in front of that, then it goes to all of my followers. Okay?
But what if I don't want you to do that?
That's okay. If you don't want to do that, you don't have to. And it may be
You could do it, something I wrote.
yes.
So I could write you something personal and you have the option to put it.
That's why you don't do personal stuff. That's why you would use a DM for that. So if I'm having a conversation on Twitter, and you do, between two people like Father Tim and I are doing right now, and but we're okay with other people seeing it. We're just going to use the @ sign, and that's called tweeting at somebody. But if I want to have everybody see it, then I'm going to put that period in front of it. And again, Twitter reads that as this needs to go to everybody. And it's just a little, so that's just a little, so that, and see, that tweet should go, if you're following, it should go to all of that. So, people are voting. Yay. Tim's very excited because he's not working on it. Meredith's giving us props, which is always nice. So that's part of the difference in tweeting at somebody. So you can see Tim and I are having this conversation. So if and by the way, I encourage you to follow Tim because he's hilarious on Twitter.
Now, how would I follow, because I can't seem to get back to the place where I can choose a follower or search for a follower.
Okay, well, under Twitter, see at the top it says search Twitter, and you're on your app, your iPhone, so I need to.
So there's like a little magnifying.
There's a little magnifying glass, and then you can just type in. Yeah, you can type in names, you can type in subjects, you can type in Episcopal Church, and you'll get a ton of tweets.
So I
Yes.
did that and I got to your page,
Mm-hmm.
but I can't seem to find a place to follow.
Okay, it should show when you get on your page. You're on my page?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just going to pop over to one account that I'm not. So iDots domains, by the way, this is what spam looks like. But notice it's called a promoted tweet. People have bought to get on there, and you can just dismiss it. So that dismiss, by the way, doesn't show up. You actually have to roll over to the side, and then it will pop up. But most of those promoted tweets are not going to be porn. Most of them are going to be businesses or movies or something like that. So I don't follow World Health Organization Southeast Asia. So I can do one of two things. I can actually go to their site, and then over to the corner it says follow. Over all the way to the right.
I see that, and I've seen that on other ones before, but I'm not seeing it on right now. What I'm looking at.
Okay, can we get some tech help back there?
1 second.
Okay. And you also can just roll over the site. See how it rolls over that? And go right down here to the person and click, and that'll follow as well. So 2 ways to do that. So do we, right now I want to stop and check in on questions.
Firm.
So when you are live tweeting an event, I will tell you that some of that just comes from practice. So you're not going to live tweet everything like this, you know, the speaker opened with prayer. Yay. But what might be wonderful to live tweet is in the opening prayer, we remembered, we wished our Islamic brothers and sisters a blessed Ramadan. You know, hashtag, you know, Ramadan or whatever. So you see the difference between general fact versus something that allows people to sit in the room with you. Something that struck you, something that makes you go, gosh, that's really interesting. You know, and as you're live tweeting, those are the kind of things you want to share with people. Again, what strikes you as interesting? You know, you're not worrying about, oh my gosh, I've got to be really profound here. What moves your heart? What excites you about being in a space? Then that's how you live tweet it.
So doing a live tweet, maybe like hashtag the event.
Yeah.
And then just stream of everything you say.
I generally try to include, and I'm going to show you Meredith's tweet back here. Right here. So Meredith hashtags it on the front end. I tend to hashtag on the back end. Doesn't really matter. Church social media chat is another, they're doing that I think tonight. That's another hashtag she's doing. I hashtag every tweet unless I just run out of room. Because if I'm live tweeting an event, usually you can go back and go, oh, that's where that tweet fits. I just start tweeting. Sometimes I will say live tweeting diocesan convention, you know, but again, sometimes it just gets where I am is what shows up.
Can you say your Twitter handle?
Dirty Sexy Ministry, DRTYSXY Ministry spelled out. So when you're live tweeting, one of the things I think that is helpful for me to remember is what would I want to hear if I were not here? What would I want to hear if I weren't sitting in the space? Can you imagine what it is like for a member of your parish who cannot leave his or her home because of injury or can't attend the glorious, you know, ordination of your bishop, to be able to pull up on Twitter and see pictures and to hear you are here. Your presence is important to us. That I think is what Twitter does and live tweeting does. It also jumps up engagement. I mean, I've live tweeted some events at churches where people said, well, I didn't know that was what that was. I'm going to go next year. So, you know, it does step up in engagement. I don't necessarily find that church use of Twitter is as helpful as church use of Facebook or blogs or some other stuff. Because, again, it's a conversation around a subject. And churches tend to not, like institutions tend to not sort of engage on, I mean, St. Michael's Lex is not going to live tweet Game of Thrones. It is very possible that St. Michael's Lex might live tweet a UK basketball game. But you can see how the medium of Twitter makes it a little more difficult. What I think is helpful, though, for churches to use Twitter, and where I found some traction, is when, during Lent, I did, and it was hashtag, 40 days of Lent, I would just pose a Lenten discipline every morning. So I'd get up, I'd say morning prayer, and then I would tweet from our parish account, as you go through the day, take a picture of something that reminds you of yearning. Say a prayer, write a letter to a friend or neighbor you haven't seen, but a very short sort of discipline for Lent. And we did Advent in the same way. The brothers of SSJE and how many St. John the Evangelist, they use social media really well. And I'm so glad to see that they do that. But they kind of have that structure with some of their Lent, the pictures. And some of you have seen the pictures of a day for Advent. You can use that in Twitter for churches. I also find that it's really helpful to tweet out, if it's a feast day, an icon of the Blessed Virgin Mary and maybe a short prayer. Or, for the visitation, I think I sent out a picture that said something like the visitation reminds us of the power of the relationships of our lives. What relationships are you thankful for? What relationships challenge you? So it's less of a way, I think, to create a conversation, more of a way to start a conversation in real time. Does that make sense a little bit? So I think it's helpful also to use reminders of events, but I remind you that Twitter tends to be a real-time medium. So if you send out a tweet at 6:30 in the morning, that's when it's going to get read unless somebody retweets it at noon or whenever. So, kind of recognize that maybe sending out a tweet at, 5:30 may be better if you're going to do a reminder, but it's not the best way I would ever use for a reminder, but you can do it. And again, live.
Because it would just go all the way down the list and people wouldn't go that way.
Yeah, well, it just goes off the screen. So, these tweets that pop up in my notification on my home screen, they're there at that moment. So you can see this one was tweeted 16 seconds ago, American Express. So there's by the way, not there, dismiss. Just, it's a little, so you see these.
So you can notify somebody of an event and make it come up in their notifications?
It will only come in real time. So see 3 minutes. So there's not going to be a tweet here that showed up on my timeline from 6:30 this morning, unless, see, Eric retweeted this. So that's how it would show up. That's why I just don't think it's a great use of reminders, but you can put them out there.
So there are a few questions from our online contingent.
Yay, questions. I hope.
So as a clergy person that is maybe in charge of a parish or is working full-time, do you have suggestions for how to manage this sort of social media interaction? Having Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest all up and going as one person can be sort of overwhelming. So what things have you found in order to stay active in terms of timing? I think one of the things that I do is be judicious about your use of time. In the same way that I realize that I cannot do, I can't do 5,000 things in a day. I have to, I can't write all of my sermons in one afternoon. I have to write sort of one sermon at a time. I think that find out the social media platforms that you are engaged with. I think that social media is a lot like anything else in the world. We all have gifts. Paul loves to tell us, you got gifts. There are some people who take to Twitter like fish to water. They're just good at it. And I can't really tell you what that metric is. There are some people who really, really take to Instagram. And there are some people who are really, so I would say find out what your passion is, where you like to engage, and then focus on that. Don't try to do everything. There's nothing worse than going to a church that has a Pinterest page and a blog and a Facebook page and a Twitter account and Instagram account, and they have a Tumblr, and everything is updated maybe once or twice a month. Pick 3 or whatever number you're comfortable with and use those 3. Instagram, Snapchat are very visually oriented. Instagram is about pictures. So there are people who just love to see pictures. My niece loves Instagram. I think she's on Twitter and Facebook maybe like once a decade, but she loves Instagram because she's always taking pictures of all of her friends and what their adventures. That's what she likes. So I think the same thing goes for clergy. Find the things that are your passion, that you find life in, and that don't seem like work in the sense of you just dread doing it every day. So I think that's where I would stand on that.
Also, what are some things that a church should tweet about from their account, and how do you suggest attracting more followers to a church account to see those things?
So what helps people follow you is that you tweet. I do not follow people. So when I get somebody that follows me, I go, first of all, I generally do not follow people who have eggs as profile, but I do realize you all have new, so so I will go to the account and I'll say, okay, let's see who, let me see Angela's account. And then I will go see what she's tweeted. Oh, well, Angela's new on Twitter and so I'm going to follow her. I don't follow people who don't tweet. And I think most people, I don't think that's a necessarily, I think that's how most people are. So if your church account is a dormant account, and there are a lot of them out there, why would I follow it? It's kind of like, why would I go have lunch with somebody who I know is going to sit there and stare at me the whole time and never say a word? So I think the first way to get followers is to actually be on Twitter, to tweet, to retweet, to follow, to quote tweets, to say, to engage in the conversation that's happening here. The second way is to let people know that you have a Twitter account. I see more churches that do not do this very simple thing. You come to St. Michael's on a Sunday, at our bulletin, there is a line that says, follow us on Twitter at St. Michael's Lex or Facebook on this account. We give people an easy way. My goodness, they have an account. I can almost tell you when we have Sundays because we have followers. We have people, visitors who come to church. Every bulletin we have, Christmas, Easter, that line is in there. It is as important to our ministry as the prayer list to let people know we are there. So let people know you have the account. Let your parishioners know you have the account. I think to let your parishioners know Twitter is an important part of evangelism and teach them how to do it. Have classes in your parish of how to tweet. Do this in your parish. So those things all help create an environment in which Twitter is, you get followers, you engage in followers. So there's a question in the back.
So I'm a avid Facebook person right now, and I see people post stuff via Instagram. So that leads me to believe that there is a way to.
There is a way to cross post. I don't like to do it. I think cross posting, because I think that those again, it's not an apples to apples comparison. So when I see a tweet that says, I just posted something new on Facebook, I never click through. I just don't, because I'm like, well, if it's not important enough for you to actually, and it takes you 3 seconds more, quite honestly. So if I want, and there are times that I will post the same information on my church account, on my personal account, and my blog account. And I just copy and paste it every single time. So it's a brand new tweet or a brand new Facebook post and all that. Because again, I'm not going to click through. And if it is a click through thing, like your newsletter, if you tweet that out, or a link to an article, that's the other thing I use our church Twitter account for, is to tweet out articles or links to. There was a really good, and I've just lost the name, but Nuria Love Paris talked about it yesterday. That's all about sort of helping families celebrate the holy days. And so they had an advent, and I tweeted that out, and it was a click-through. So what we call a click-through is when somebody has a link and you click through to the link. I never do that for Facebook stuff. And it's, again, just different audience.
So the second part of my question is, I love Facebook and I'm very comfortable with it, but I'm not comfortable with Twitter, partially because I just haven't done it. And going back to what you said about, find the space that is your comfort zone, should I interpret my initial discomfort as something that's not my thing, or should I just plug at it for a while? Or
I think, I always say plug at it for a while, because there's a difference between initial discomfort that arises because we are now entering something in which we are not experts, and initial discomfort because it's a bad situation. So I think we have to be careful about finding that initial discomfort because we're beginners. And my experiences as adults, we do not like to be beginners. And yet, interestingly enough, we know psychologically and physiologically that process of being beginners helps keep us healthy. So we don't like it. It's castor oil. Don't like it, but there are times you need. So I would just say engage with it for a while and try to put a voice to what you don't like about it. Some people don't like Twitter because they really don't like the flow of information that quickly. Okay, that's a very, that's what I don't like about it. But I just say, I just don't like it,
It helps to keep the mind active.
Absolutely. Okay, question?
You said at the very beginning, how do you do multiple accounts? How do you do your personal without having to sign out and sign back on?
Well, you can't do that on your Mac.
But on your phone.
But on your phone, you can. So,
you said it at the beginning, and I can't remember.
yeah, if you go on your phone account, you are going to go, there's a little, actually, catch me afterwards and we'll go through that. Because it was easier for me to walk you through it. And if you want to learn that, because I will show you, but if you'll go under the little me person, there's a process that you have to add the account and add your password and it'll just pop up. But catch,
So in the profile.
yeah, under the profile, and I have to kind of play around with it, but it's, yeah, but it's easy to do on your phone. So are there other questions online? Everybody's like, I need coffee, because I do. Are there any other questions? And again, I'm around through this whole thing. I just thank you for coming. Thank you for opening yourself up to something new. I believe that social media is one of the most powerful forms of spreading the good news of Jesus. And at the end of the day, I think this world needs to know, and people in it, that they are loved, and they are loved as they are, and that they are loved enough to be more than they thought they could be. And that is the great message of Christ, and is the great message of our faith. Social media is a way to spread that message. And for us to say, as a church, we don't do social media, is a way of us saying, we don't think this message is worth sharing. There are people who will only hear about your church and your faith through this. There are people in my congregation right now who came to St. Michael's because there were people who were posting on Facebook and live tweeting events. And they saw that and went, what's going on there? It is not a replacement for face-to-face evangelism, but it is an assistant for face-to-face evangelism. It is a wonderful way, especially as we enter into populations and generations who only have come to church for funerals and weddings, and who are very uncomfortable in the day-to-day life of our ritual. It is a way for them to, again, not feel like such a beginner when they come to an event, because they've gotten to know us. On our visitation cards, we ask, how did you hear about our church? How many of you just want to take a stab at what almost 100% of the people say now? How they first hear about your church? Online. Websites, Facebook, Twitter. If you do not have an online presence, you are not present in the community that needs to hear about the love of Christ. So thank you all for sharing your time with me, and we'll see you on Twitter.